Right, I want you to listen to something, and then we'll talk about it. So here we go.
Hey, 5 and 9 here this morning, 5 and 9, beautiful signal. I hear you long passes too, about a half a second delay, over.
Really? Fantastic. Mike 0, X-ray, X-ray, Tango, Atlantic. One, two, three. There's another clip as well. Let's just listen to this one. CQ, hello, M0XXT. M0XXT. John's saying both parts confirmed. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Now, this could be one of 2, 3, 4, 5 things, right? We're used to on this channel, particularly on 40 meters, you know, a little clown comes up and he likes to rebroadcast what he hears on YouTube. So it could be that. But I'll tell you why I don't think it is. It could be someone anywhere in the world rebroadcasting this from a web SDR, all right? And I'll tell you why I don't think that is either. Or some other strange propagation. So I'm going to go through all the scenarios, but I've got a note here from Tamitha, you know, the space weather girl. If you don't subscribe to her channel, go and have a look and watch some of her stuff. She's a very interesting character, extremely clever, and a specialist in the space weather scene. Right, so why wasn't a YouTube retransmission? Because when I stream on YouTube, on my radio, you see, there is a delay between me broadcasting live here, or remote, right, and YouTube picking it up and rebroadcasting it to you. I normally use very low latency, so it's about for 3.5 to 4.5 seconds minimum. Normally a little bit longer, maybe 5 seconds. Actually, if you measured, I've done it frame by frame. It comes out at about 3.15 seconds. The delay. However, we've got roughly half a second of delay because of my remote audio. You know, there's a few milliseconds here, there, and everywhere on the internet and so on, because I'm remoting into this. And we worked out it's about 2.6 to 2.7 seconds. Weirdly enough, which is the amount of time it would take to get to the moon and back. But I don't think it's that either. If you're an experienced DXer, long distance multi-hop DX, long distance radio propagation, often has a tone to it. Not so much a pitch, but a tone. In other words, you will hear, you know, you'll lose some of the bass. You very rarely lose the top end, actually. It's kind of really whispery, thinner, normally. And an experienced DX operator, if I'm running a pile-up, sometimes I know, there's definitely bit of DX coming in because it's the tone. You know, Rowley comes in, he's thinner than normal. Unless it's a super fat signal, then, you know, the whole thing comes through. And we were receiving that kind of tone. Here's another little bit. Let's just remind ourselves. John's saying both parts confirmed. Now, the thing is, there was people all around the world listening to this, all right, live, you know, on their radio. And there's people on the live chat saying, I can hear an echo. Now, if it was just a rebroadcast and Tom can hear it 40 miles up the road and some other guy, in fact, John, November Japan 4 Zulu, he could hear it as well. Some people called it they could hear long path and short path. They thought some people could just hear an echo. Tom up the road could hear it. If somebody was rebroadcasting this, where would they have been? Right? Were they in America? If I can hear them, they're probably running at least a Yagi because it was strong enough for that. So that then Tom could hear. When Tom turned his hex beam around, we never got quite to the bottom of this, but it disappeared. So he didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know where it was coming from. And then somebody said, what about a long duration echo? All right, so I'll explain what a long duration echo is. And then Tom had the idea of writing to Tamitha and letting her hear this clip and asking her opinion at exactly 12:30 UTC on that Sunday the 4th of January. What was space weather doing? So this might be the clincher. But firstly, I went to ChatGPT. I thought I'll let him crawl the internet for me. I call him George. I'll put the whole of this thread, big long discussion about long duration echoes, in the description. It's quite good fun. But I said, okay, tell me more about it. Why do they happen and everything else? So he crawled the internet for me and said, we've got either ionospheric reflections. Oh, excuse me a moment. Medication time. Magnetospheric propagation. Never heard of that. Planetary reflections. Some sort of artificial cause. Some sort of plasma thing. Extraterrestrial influence. Or psychological or equipment issues. Now, Tom went flying off. He spent a day. You know how we've all done this, haven't we? You start searching for something, and before you know it, you're down a rabbit hole. Tom did the rabbit hole on these long duration. Now, Tom will probably comment in the comments here, but he found a Japanese guy from, I think, the 80s who switched his equipment. Well, he stopped transmitting. He happened to be in his shack. And either 42 or 47 minutes later, he heard himself again. All right? So they're really quite fascinating. Long duration echoes are normally found on the 80 meter band and can be several seconds long. And nobody knows why or how it works. So anyway, Tamitha is an academic. So when she says at the top, my perfunctory response, which is kind of, shorthand, I haven't really looked at this. I'll give you a quick breeze over. But for me, this is all I wanted, right? Is that the event was caused by the strong northward turning of the magnetic field at the time in question. I have the region of interest and specific time period labelled in the attached figure. I'll show you that. The top panel shows a red line that suddenly flips from negative to positive at the time in question, shown by the arrow and grey vertical line. This red line is the north-south component of the solar wind magnetic field. Notice it flipped from strongly southward to strongly northward in just a few hours. The end result is a rapid change that likely propagates similar to a shockwave or weather front down to mid-latitudes, especially to the dayside ionosphere, due to the rapidly changing convection patterns in the ionospheric polar regions. These patterns are at least partially driven by how the Earth's magnetic shield shakes hands with the magnetic field in the solar wind. Northward turnings shift the shaking of hands to the dayside ionosphere. This would help explain why New Zealand and Australia didn't experience this. I think I said to her that no one in the southern hemisphere could hear this. I wouldn't be surprised if the effects were also frequency dependent. This is just speculation, but perhaps longer wavelengths used on the night side of Earth weren't as susceptible to the rapidly changing pattern due to the scale lengths of the changes involved. You might consider talking to Carl Lutzenschwab, K9LI, and I probably made a mess of that name. I'm sure he has more insights than I do, and it might intrigue him to investigate further. I haven't contacted him, okay, because, I will, actually, but I just haven't for this video. There we go. This northward turning in the solar wind occurred during what is called a stream interaction region, or SIR, see the yellow boxed region, which is a compression region that always travels ahead of a fast solar wind stream. It is similar to the bow wave driven ahead of a boat as it moves through a slow-moving river. SIRs mimic the effect of solar storms and can very often have these kind of rapid field rotations in them. There is a chance that the stepwise solar wind speed profile during the SIR also contributed to the intensity of the phenomenon. See the yellow trace on the fourth panel. Either way, nice catch, and thanks for sharing. Tamitha did say, do you recall ever experienced this before or hearing anyone report it in the past? I just told her about these long duration echoes, and it was mostly on 80 meters. So what do you think? Have you ever experienced this before? I'm swayed both ways. It could be a rebroadcast, but the downside is, or, you know, if I was sort of putting this as a defense barrister, the downside is that the tone sounded very DX. Too many people could hear it, which means you need a very powerful station doing this. And I don't think a very powerful station's kind of into this stuff. You know, rebroadcast, you're making a fool of themselves around the world. Too many people could hear it. My feeling is I'm propagating and it's bouncing around, if you, this is in layman's terms, and popping out all over the place. All right, which is why people were hearing it with very short duration echo and longer duration echoes.
I hear you long passes too, about a half a second delay, over.
Food for thought. I'm interested in your comments. If you've heard anything like this before, let me know, but surf through the comments anyway and see what you think after you've read them. All right, interesting stuff. Enjoy your radio now. Keep experimenting. There's nothing like it. You take care now. Bye for now.